Hey everybody, welcome back to the Live Ultralight podcast powered by Outdoor Vitals. Today in this episode, we had a fantastic interview with Kyle OGrady, who I'll introduce just in a moment. But if you are new to this podcast, make sure that you do give us a subscribe if you are someone who is avid about getting outdoors more comfortably, more confidently, and therefore more consistently. On this podcast, we interview a lot of people, share a lot of great adventures that they have, and hopefully that inspires you to get outside and also learn from their what they've done right, maybe what they've done wrong as well. So today we had a phenomenal interview with Kyle OGrady, who is a very popular YouTube personality and an outdoor enthusiast. He's gained a large following for his humorous takes on hiking and camping via his channel, and what most of you will know him by as Kyle Hates Hiking. Despite his channel's name, Kyle is actually an avid hiker who enjoys exploring the great outdoors and sharing his experiences with others. His videos cover a wide variety of topics, from tips and tricks for hiking and camping to gear reviews and hiking vlogs. He also has started pretty recently sharing stories of mysterious disappearances and even some murders on some of these longer trails or through hiking destinations. So those have actually been pretty interesting, and they've been growing his channel a lot. So if you're interested in hearing about some crazy stories and tales from some of those long trails, be sure to go check him out on Kyle Hates Hiking on his YouTube channel. But today in our interview, had a really great time with Kyle, just catching up, learning a little bit about him, learning about his hikes. He's hiked the AT, he's hiked the PCT, taking away some tips and tricks from him, covering 20 miles a day and how to do that, base weights, covering, eating on trail, and just a lot of other unique topics. And it was a great conversation. So I'm excited to share this interview with you guys. And with that, we'll go ahead and roll it forward. All right, Kyle, super glad to have you on the show. Thanks for being here today.
I'm excited. I really appreciate, oh man, this is how we're going to start out. Really appreciate the invite. We got it. It's going to be great.
I love it. I'm glad you did that. So it feels like I now have permission to be a little more, stumble across my words. And you're calling us from Hawaii right now, which seems like it's a long ways from any through hiking trail. But how's that going for you?
It's good. There's really not, I'm not like an expert on Hawaii hiking, to be clear, but there isn't much even for backpacking here. There is the call out trail though, on Kauai, which I had never heard of before I came here, but I don't know when this is going to come out. By the time this comes out, I'm sure that I'll have a video up about it already and some podcast stuff too. But that's cool. It's only about 22 miles though, so it's not really like I wouldn't really consider it a through hike. But then again, nobody knows what exactly constitutes a through hike, and we could do a whole episode just on that, I'm sure.
22 miles. That sounds like a through hike a few more people could actually complete,
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. What is the cutoff, right? Like I made a video about this a couple months ago. It's like, for me, I feel like a through hike is just like when you hike one trail continuously, but then again, there has to be some sort of mileage cutoff, because to me, like 100-mile trail that you hike continuously, that feels like a through hike to me, but a 22-mile trail doesn't. But like, I don't know where the cutoff is. So it's kind of interesting to go down that rabbit hole. I don't know.
That is a good point, because 100 miles does feel pretty substantial. Like it's a commitment. Yeah. So like maybe you just need to loop around the island 4 to 5 times to break that. Or you got to paddle to the next island, and then so if you want to call it a through hike on Hawaii, you got to go from island to island and through hike the whole range there. So
that'd be pretty sweet. It'd be a lot of roads, at least on Oahu. Maybe on the other islands it wouldn't be as much, but there's not too much free space here.
Well, I wanted to also say congrats. I pulled up your YouTube channel today, and dude, your channel is blowing up. Like at first I was like, have I just not been watching closely enough? Because like, when did you get to 144,000 subs? And then I watched I pulled up a video from like a month ago, and you were like, hey, I'm trying to cross 100,000 subscribers. And so like in a month, you've gained 44,000 subs. So it seems like you're just blowing up. Right now, so.
I'm very grateful. I started this new series on my channel a couple months ago where I basically tell stories, often, unfortunately, like pretty sad stories, or sometimes just like interesting, like weird, like mystery stories about like things that have happened to various hikers, whether it's people being stranded or, various things, some murders, stuff like that. And yeah, it's like pretty morbid stuff, but like that has definitely drawn in a lot of people. It's kind of interesting because I feel like I'm kind of sort of bridging the gap between like just having like the hardcore, like, hiking nerds, and also having just a more general audience that maybe doesn't know quite as much about hiking. And so I think that's the reason why my channel has grown so much. And I'm very grateful because I've been grinding away doing YouTube since the end of 2019. And, I had some success before that too, but like nothing like it's been the last few months. And so it feels good. And yeah, I'm just super grateful. I'm sure there'll be some people watching and listening right now that follow my channel. So if that's you, I genuinely appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I may have you tell a quick story because you've got like 5 or 6 of these type of videos now on your channel, maybe more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I've got close to 10 at this point, something like that.
And they definitely seem clickable and very interesting for sure. So maybe to give them like a teaser here, Kyle, because we want them all to jump over to your channel and listen to these, or I don't know if you tell them on your podcast as well, but
no, the podcast is going to stick to through hiking okay. Nerd stuff, I think.
Yeah. So maybe give me like an overview of one of these stories. Like what is happening in them? Because I think they look interesting, but I have yet to be able to go through one. Yeah.
So I'll talk about one that as of the time of this recording, it hasn't come out yet, but it's going to be out tomorrow. So I'm assuming this will be out probably, okay. A while after that video's out. So anyways, it's a story about a man named Jesse Pinegar who disappeared on the, man, my brain is not working. Call Out Trail. The Hawaii names are a little tricky for me sometimes. Call Out Trail. That one I mentioned at the top of the episode here.
So in Hawaii.
In Hawaii, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I went and hiked this trail a couple weeks ago, and it's a pretty like notorious trail. Like there's like some really steep cliffs. Like that's kind of what it's most famous for, is like there's these sections of trail where it's just like a straight drop right into the ocean. Like it's not technically hard. Like the trail itself, it's not like you're climbing up and over stuff or, dodging things. Like it's pretty easy trail, but it's just a very, steep penalty if you misstep, I guess. And there's some dangerous, yeah. And there's some dangerous river crossings and some beaches along the trail that are kind of dangerous, or actually very dangerous because of the currents and stuff. But anyway, so it's a pretty gnarly trail. And in 2008, there was a guy named Jesse Pinegar who just disappeared on the trail, and his family found out about a campsite he had left like a few weeks, I believe, after he had gone missing. And there's been no sign of him ever since then. And I think one of the coolest things about this new series I've started on my channel is that, not for all of them, but for a number of them, I've gotten to like actually talk to the families of these people, and they're always so appreciative, which is awesome. And it gives me a chance to like ask them what they want me to include in the video and stuff. Anyways, I talked pretty extensively with Jesse Pinegar's sister, and the family, this is just their side. This is where we stray a little bit from the hiking aspect of it, but the family was very insistent that the police in Kauai like didn't really care very much about his case, or didn't even really try to help or anything like that. And so they were so appreciative that like 15 years later, I was like giving them like a platform to kind of like tell their story and like help raise more awareness about what happened to, Jesse. So that was really cool. But I'm not surprised that someone went missing on that trail, because like I said, it's just, if you're an experienced hiker, you'd be fine on it. But I just feel like it was more like high stakes than a lot of other trails that I've done. Like there's just less room for error, I guess, if that makes sense. Like you would be fine as long as you're careful, but if you're not careful, that's where things can go wrong. And a lot of people have died on that trail due to all the various factors that I just mentioned a minute ago.
So you're really just becoming a PI. You're just starting to investigate.
No, I'm not investigating anything. I'm just telling the stories, and
yeah.
Maybe someday, probably not, but maybe someone will watch one of my videos and that will spur their memory or something, and they'll be able to help one of these stories or help solve one of these cases. Very unlikely, but that'd be a dream, I guess, a pipe dream. So we'll see.
Yeah.
If it ever does happen, you'll definitely hear me bragging about it.
So some of these, are they murderers or are they just missing cases?
Some of them are murders. Some of them are missing. They're all hiking related. So this isn't like they're always going to be hiking related. I'm a hiking nerd, and so I'm never going to stray away from that aspect of it. But just I've covered a bunch of different things. Yeah, like people who have been murdered, people who have gone missing on various trails. I've even covered a few that are just like strange, maybe not quite as serious. Like I did a video about the 12 tribes cults and like their relation to the Appalachian Trail and how they kind of like target hikers on the AT, which is something I kind of witnessed a little bit on my through hike. And then just other like various stuff. I'd like to find more mystery.
Now I gotta ask, what the heck is the 12 tribes cult?
You haven't heard about that before?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so on the AT, 12 tribes is like, most people, at least on the trail, refer to them as a cult. And so that's how I referred to them in my video, which turns out did offend some people, but that's how they're most often viewed. And they have a hostel. They're like a religious, it's really weird. Like, again, I'm not an expert on them. Pretty much all I know is just from my experience, what I witnessed on the AT. And then of course I did do quite a bit of research for that video, but they're like a religious group, but it's like, they're like hippies too. It's really weird. Like when you think of like a religious kind of fundamentalist group, you don't picture them also having like hippie vibes, but it's like a mix between that. It's very bizarre. Not really my cup of tea. And there's been like some controversy in relation to like the way that they treat their children and the women. And like, it's not like super clear. Like there's no like super clear cut controversy. I mean, there kind of is, but like they haven't really been like convicted of anything, at least in the United States. But like they don't have a great reputation either. I'll let people make that judgment for themselves if you want to do more research. But like, anyways, the way it relates to the AT is they have a hostel in Rutland, Vermont, which is an AT town, and they let hikers stay there for free. You can give like a donation or whatever. And then my understanding, it didn't happen to me, to be clear, but my understanding is that I don't know how they make this judgment, but some people will be approached when they're staying there and asked to come, leave the trail and go to this like farm they have. And then they'll try to like get you to stay, I guess, and like, so it's kind of a recruitment tool basically is kind of targeting hikers like that and drawing them in with this free hostel. So it's a little bit bizarre. I know they go to like trail days, and I've heard also just from the comments on my video about it, people say they're present on other trails too, although I haven't, noticed that myself. So I don't know. It's a little bizarre. They make good food though. I'll say that.
They make good food.
They do. They have a deli attached to the hostel, and the sandwiches are banging.
all part of HR, all part of recruitment there.
Yeah. I guess they got to make some money too somehow.
That is pretty wild.
I'm surprised you haven't, I guess if you haven't, I don't know. It's like a very like niche, like AT thing, I guess.
Yeah. I would say I'm way less versed on things AT. I mean, I did go out to trail days this last year and we did hike 100-mile section there, but East Coast, that was my first ever experience with East Coast hiking.
Wow. What section did you do?
We just did 100 miles right out of Damascus going north, cool. So Cameron Highlands and some of that.
It must have been mobbed right around trail days, I bet.
I mean, I have nothing to compare it to, and we didn't stay at any of the shelters or anything like that. We were like, this is weird. Why would we stay next to people? Because like out here in the West, it's like you try to get away from people.
Yeah.
And we were on a pretty tight schedule. So we were doing, like 25 miles a day. And so it was just kind of like wherever we landed at the, however far we could get to, we kind of call it there. And so
I got you.
But it did seem big. I think we were just ahead of the biggest bubble though. Like we left, I think we were there on Saturday and then left at like 3 p.m. and got like 10 miles in that day. And so I think we were just
that's smart.
I think we're just ahead of it. And it was funny because there's a lot of people that were on trail we were passing, and they were all like, "Is the bubble right behind you? We heard COVID went crazy in Damascus," and like all this. There's a lot of like fear, and they're like trying to stay ahead of the bubble too. So, but no, it was really cool to hike out there. But I would by no means say I'm an expert or know a lot about the AT or East Coast hiking.
Yeah.
So.
Next, have you been back since to the East Coast at all? You got to get up to the White Mountains if you're going to come back to the East Coast, and you only have a limited amount of time, which I'm assuming. Yeah. You got to go to the Whites. That's the best place on the East Coast, in my opinion, in terms of hiking.
That was my thought, was to come back and do a section either in the Whites or the Smokies, but the Whites seem a little more appealing to me personally.
The Smokies are cool too. I haven't really been there very much, just on my through hike, but in the Whites, I've been there like tons and tons and tons. I'm going to be going back real soon here too. That's like, that's the best place for sure. And on the East Coast, anyways, that's like the most challenging stuff too. You're gonna, I guess the Adirondacks too are pretty similar, but the Whites are a little bit easier in terms of the logistics and stuff. So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, I think we'll have to. On that note, you've hiked the AT, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you hiked that before you ever started like YouTube, podcast, anything like that, correct?
Correct. So it was kind of like the. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No. When was that?
I was just going to say, I thought of the idea to start making content when I was on the AT, but I didn't actually make any when I was out there.
Yeah. So I first heard of you while I was on a backpacking trip with Dan Becker and Devin Ashby. They were talking amongst themselves, and I'm like, who's Kyle? What are you talking about? And I think it was mainly because of the way that you had started your channel, kind of. I mean, with a name like Kyle Hates Hiking, obviously you'd already hiked the AT. So I don't think you like hated hiking, right? It's just the whole play. And then you kind of started by your channel by doing some things a little bit more abrasive, I guess. Or I wouldn't say abrasive, but just different.
No,
right?
that's
You're
fair.
just trying to I'm at a loss for words as well right now, but
I was just like trying to be a little goofier, not taking it quite seriously.
Being goofy, being chill. And like, if you watch the videos, like you got it, right? You weren't like some of the thumbnails, maybe you're like, whoa, what is this kid? Who is this guy?
I mean, every now and then someone definitely does not get it based on my comments, but most people I think do.
Yeah, no, it's commenters on the internet are a whole different
don't even get me started.
Yeah. It's insane out there, right? You can't create anything without
wait till you get 100,000 subscribers, then see some of the comments you get.
I mean,
it's
do you
even
read comments at that point? Do you even?
Yeah, I do still, just because like, I don't know, because every now and then you get something wrong, and like, and people can point that out, which is helpful, but I probably shouldn't read them as much now that I'm getting way more than I ever did before. Yeah, no, I would agree. So talk to me a little bit about just the start of all of your content creation, and maybe that first hike was like, did you actually dislike any aspects of hiking? Did you ever go through a phase like that, or was that never a part of it? It was always tongue in cheek, the name, which is kind of funny. Yeah. I mean, I started my channel, like that was the idea behind it. I was like, I love like backpacking videos, but like, man, all these guys, they just take it so seriously. Like so I was like, that's just not who I am. So I'm going to like try to, do similar content and still give people useful information, of course, but like just present it in just a more fun way and just be goofing around. That was the idea right from the start. And it's kind of funny and a little bit ironic maybe that, I found a lot of success with that, but also my channel didn't really blow up until I started making these very serious like videos, like these like very dark videos, which is kind of ironic. But yeah, I mean, I hiked the AT in 2018, and I'd always been interested in content. I've been a YouTube nerd my whole life. I've spent, even now, after making so many YouTube videos for a number of years, like I've still spent way more time in my life like consuming YouTube than I ever have actually making videos. So I've always been like a content nerd. And then on the AT, I got really into podcasts because I was hiking so much. And so I was just like listening. I was just like desperate to find new podcasts and like doing all this and that. And I've always wanted to make content. And I think even then I wanted to make YouTube videos, but I didn't really have the guts yet. And so on the AT, I got the idea. I was like, you know what? When I get back, I'm going to start a podcast. That seems easier than starting a YouTube channel. I already had this microphone. I had like some pretty good technical skills already that I developed when I was in college and even before that a little bit. And so I was like, that doesn't seem that difficult. I can talk, I can record, I can do basic audio editing. And so I did that. I hiked the AT. I told everyone, or not everyone, I told a few people I was going to start this podcast, and they're like, yeah, whatever, dude. And then I got back, and sure enough, like a week or two after they finished, they were getting a text from me being like, yo, let's do a podcast. And they're like, what? I didn't know he was actually serious. So I did that. And I did Trail Tales, which is the show, for over a year before I finally got the courage to get on camera. And like I said, the idea was just goofy, like good information, but presented in a goofy way. And, you know, I found some traction pretty quickly. I was very, very grateful that people were kind of latching onto the videos. I'd like to think that I got a lot better the more that I did it. And I just haven't stopped. It's been it was end of 2019 is when I started the videos, and end of 2018 was when I started the podcast. And I did take a break from the podcast for about a year, from like August of 21 until December of 22, I guess a little bit more than a year. But the podcast is back now, and just content. I'm everywhere. I'm on TikTok now. I never thought I'd say that in a million years, but here we are. I'm a TikToker apparently. Follow me on there. And yeah,
what is your favorite part? What is your favorite part about creating content? Like, what do you get out of making all these videos? You know, besides like there's some monetary benefit, right? But like what's your why behind doing it?
That's a good question. So one of my favorite things, I don't know if I could pick just one thing, but one of my favorite things for sure is getting emails and messages and comments from people like telling me that it's helped them with, you know, whatever various thing, or that I've gotten people tell me like my content has inspired them or partially inspired them to do their own thru hike, which is awesome. You know, every now and then I'll get recognized when I'm hiking by somebody, and they'll tell me, like, I remember back in the summer of 2021, my channel wasn't even that, I probably had like 15,000, 20,000 subscribers back then. And I went on just an overnight hike on the AT, and I just happened to go through right when the thru hiker bubble was coming through that area. And me and my friend Flossie, who's in a lot of the videos, we got recognized by like so many thru hikers, and like they were telling us like, oh, like your videos were so helpful. And at this point we were in Vermont. And so at this point they were, well into the trail, and clearly like we're like doing well. We're on track to make it all the way. And so like just hearing like all these people, like it wasn't that many people, you know, it's probably like 5 or 6 people, but just in, you know, just over the course of a day, that was quite a bit. And just like hearing these like thru hikers, these badass thru hikers, like telling me that like my videos were really helpful for them, you know, and helped, though certainly was not the only reason for the success that they had, you know, up to that point on the trail. Like that was just really cool and very, very rewarding. So that's a big reason. That's a huge benefit. And then also just like, it's just fun to be creative. It's just like, and you know, YouTube is definitely not like the most like creative, you know, thing out there. I'm not saying that, but it's just really satisfying to like put a lot of work into a video, like spend a lot of time trying to come up with a topic and a title and a thumbnail, that you think is going to be well received, and then to put it out there not really knowing for sure, and then to have it like be well received is just like very satisfying. And so that's like a really cool aspect of it as well.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that like your videos can be seen by tens of thousands or 100,000s of people, but like you talk to one person on trail and it's like, hey, I'm doing something here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, honestly. Like, and it doesn't happen like that often, but like, yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
It's a weird kind of day and age to be in, because I feel the same way. Like if we get stopped on trail and talked to, it means so much more than like a comment, right?
I know, which is
you get
crazy,
comments all
right?
the time.
Isn't that crazy? Because like the the core of what they're saying might not be any different between the conversation you have in person and the comment on YouTube or whatever. But like, those comments still do mean a lot, like I said, but there is just something about it happening in person that's extra cool. I don't know. It definitely means like I can like remember pretty much every interaction that I've had with someone like on trail that, you know, recognized me, but like I don't remember every nice comment as much as I wish that I could. I still appreciate them though. Trust me.
Right. Yeah. Last year we put together this program and we're doing it again this year called the 100-Mile Challenge. And it's like this DIY challenge you can sign up for. And then we have like a Facebook group, and then we do like live coaching calls essentially to help people kind of go through the framework and in the training. And last year we just did it as a beta. And it was wild to me that of like everything we did, of products we launched, content we released, you know, all of the things that we did, that was like the single most like personal, like made me feel better about like stuff we were doing than anything else, right? And even though like it was just a small group, we capped it. It was wild just because it was way more personal. And it just really goes to show like this weird day and age that we live in of like we can be affecting thousands of people, but sometimes it's hard, you know, when you're behind a computer doing it and you're not getting that face-to-face time. So no, that's cool. That's cool. You're getting recognized, and those really are valuable experiences. So if you see Kyle out on the trail, make sure to stop him, harass him.
Unless you hate me. If you don't like me, then just keep on walking.
Keep on walking. Yeah. So you've also done the PCT. Was that was last year, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I did most of it. I didn't do all of it. I did like 80-ish% of it, about 2,200 miles of it, roughly.
Okay. What happened there?
Just like fire closures, and that was the main thing.
Dang.
And then like I probably, if I had just like, you know, it was, you know, early to mid-September by the time I went home. Like if I had just hung around for like a couple months and like rented a car or something, I probably could have hopped back and forth and ended up getting everything, to be clear. But I just didn't really want to do that. And so, yeah, I did most of it, but like there was so many closures, and which is far from a unique story on the PCT these days. But the worst one was the Canadian border closed because of a fire. Like when I was, you know, within, you know, striking distance of it, which was a real bummer. I was already in Washington at that point, and then we learned that the border section was closed because of a fire. So that was a real bummer. That was kind of the nail in the coffin. I do think it opened back up at some point, but yeah, I don't know. At that point, it was too late for me.
Yeah,
anyways.
that's incredibly frustrating. I imagine. I can't imagine.
It's the way it goes.
Going through
the way it goes
on
the PCT. I'm gonna hopefully get back out there and finish it up the end of this summer. That's the plan. My permits are still pending, but you know, that's the plan.
Okay. If you were to recommend someone to go on a thru hike, you know, between the PCT and the AT, what do you recommend first?
I think either way you'd be fine. Like there's beginners, or not even beginners, but just like first time thru hikers on both trails. I think if you're from the West Coast, then you should do the PCT first. If you're from the East Coast, then I would say do the AT first. Physically, the PCT is probably a little bit easier, though it is not. A lot of people say that, and then it gives the impression that the PCT is like a cakewalk. It's not. It's still very difficult, but it is just a little bit better graded on some of the climbs and stuff. AT is easier logistically. You don't have to worry about resupply nearly as much, although the PCT generally is still pretty easy. There's just a few spots that are not easy, and the AT is almost always very easy to resupply on. So it just depends. I would say the biggest deciding factor would just be like which would be easier for you to get to. If you're East Coast, do the AT first. If you're West Coast, if you're in the middle of the country, those often forgot about middle of the country folks. I don't know. Maybe that's a toss up. That could go either way. Flip a coin. I wish I had a better answer, but you can't go wrong either way.
You're good. What do you feel like is some of the best advice you could give for someone preparing for a thru hike?
It kind of depends on how much backpacking experience you have. If you don't have any, then my biggest piece of advice would be go and get some backpacking experience first. Do as much as you can. There are people every single year on every single trail that have never spent a night outside and they make it all the way. So I'm not trying to discourage you, but the more experience you have, the better, 100%. And then mentally, I think that a lot of people go into their first thru hike not really understanding, and there's no way for you to fully understand what it's going to be like, obviously, but like I think a lot of people tend to underestimate the mental side of things, and that's very understandable. But just know that it's hard, and it's not always fun. A lot of the time, it's not always like super fun. It's very rewarding. It's always rewarding, but it's not always fun. And so I think that people should really think a lot about their reasons for being out there. I know for me personally, I need more of a reason than just to have like a cool adventure. For some people that works, but I feel like that's not the majority, because like you can go adventure anywhere for a few weeks, and then after that you're going to be okay, I'm a little adventured out. I think it's time to go home and get clean or whatever. So if that's your only reason, I just feel like your chances of succeeding aren't as high. But again, there are people that still succeed with that mindset. But for me, I needed like a bigger reason to hike, and just like for me, that was just this goal of wanting to complete like the entire trail. That was something that was just like very important to me, especially, I mean, it was important on the PCT too, but that just kind of fell to the wayside after a while because of all the fires and stuff. But on the AT especially, like that was very, very important. And that was like what kept me going, instead of just wanting to see cool views, because you get sick of the views after a little bit sometimes. depends on the views actually, but sometimes. But I don't know. Hopefully, just take the mental preparation like very seriously, and physical too. But that kind of goes back to just like having some experience and stuff before. Yeah,
let me ask you that. So like how many miles do you typically average per day when you're
it varies. On the PCT I averaged more. On the AT I averaged about 15 per day when all was said and done, including zeros, including Neros, everything from the day I started to the day that I finished. I averaged 15, but that means that typically it was more, anywhere from like, I'd say like around 20 was probably like a good like average. There were some days that were more, there was a lot of days that were less too. On the PCT it was a little bit more. I don't remember my total average on the PCT because things got so messed up with sections that we had to skip and all that. I could figure it out pretty easily. I just haven't, but it was probably closer to like, I don't know, maybe closer to like 18 or so per day, 17, maybe something like that. So we were doing like 25-mile days were fairly typical on the PCT. We did some 30s, lots of 20s, I would say, after we got ramped up. And in the PCT, like I said earlier, is just like the grade is easier. So a 30-mile day on the PCT is much easier than a 30-mile day on the AT, generally speaking. I think I only did one 30-mile day on the AT.
Yeah. I mean, those are some big days, 20 to 30 miles. That's a lot of miles in a day. So if you were to compare the mental versus the physical, what do you feel like is harder? I guess let's start by saying, what do you think takes more people off trail?
The mental, I think, okay. Well, a lot of people get off trail because they get injured actually. So,
and it doesn't take long once you have an injury to like mentally check out too, right?
That's a good point. Maybe there's people that get off trail due to injuries that could have pushed through it or not maybe pushed through it, but just could have figured it out and found a way to heal it, but didn't. It's really tough to say. I'll just say that a lot of people do get off because they're just not having fun and it's not really what they thought it would be. Even people that have, thru hiked previously, like will get off trail on their next thru hike because of mental and all sorts of stuff. That happens quite a bit. So like, the people leaving because of the mental stuff is very common for sure.
Isn't that interesting that even if they had done a thru hike, like what we choose to remember, you know, a lot of times what I always say is you forget the bad. Typically you learn from certain aspects, but you really remember the good. And then you just kind of reminisce. And then you get out there and you're like, oh wait, this was really hard. I totally forgot how hard this was. Or
yeah. And sometimes it can be circumstantial too. Like even just maybe you're in a different place in your life for your second through hike and it's not as good. Or maybe you just don't like the trail as much. You know, there's a whole, you know, a ton of different reasons that it could happen, but it does happen. It certainly does happen. I mean, so you could argue that it even happened to me. You know, I like to give myself a little bit of leeway because I do think that if the trail had been open, I would have hiked all the way through.
Right.
But like, I mean, technically I could have hopped around and probably completed the whole trail last year, but I didn't. So you could even say that I quit, which is like a running joke and debate on my channel now. Like, did Kyle quit? Some people say yes. Some people say yes.
Kyle quits hiking.
Kyle quits hiking. I don't think anyone's made that yet. That's a good one. I'm surprised nobody. Maybe someone made it. I just missed it. I don't know. That's a good one.
So doing over 20 miles a day, though, we'll just say that because, like you said, there's a scale there. But doing 20 or more miles a day, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for a lot of people. And it was actually one of the most common questions that we got when I was hiking on the Appalachian Trail, that little section that we did, because we were kind of in the range, per se, of where people were typically doing 13 to 15, maybe 13 to 17 miles a day. And so when we came through, we were doing, honestly, 25 a day on average. We did have one 30-mile day, which was a complete accident.
That's pretty good.
I wish that we had far out. We would have saved ourselves some headaches at times. We were just going. And so like one of the times, like the day we did over 30 was not planned. We got onto some private land where we couldn't camp and we're like, oh, great. So then we just had to keep moving through, you know, but
that's pretty freaking good, dude, for not through hiking on the AT. You just hop on there and do a 30-mile day. That's pretty good.
we do train a lot. Like we run, we trail run.
Okay.
You know, we try to because if you ever go to the Uinta High Line, I think we averaged 22 plus miles a day, maybe even higher. So we did that 110-mile section in 4.5 days. So we've got a really good crew here. Like we all run, we all train. And we basically trail run because it's just a faster way to get miles in, if that makes sense. But
yeah,
and we fast pack a little bit as well. But back to this question for you is we'd get that question a lot. Like, man, how do you guys do 20 miles a day? And so we'd kind of talk through like, well, you know, maybe it's this, like trying to figure out what we're doing different than them per se, besides just physical preparedness. What do you say to people like that? Like, what are some things that you feel like guys that are doing, let's say, 13 to 15 miles a day, what are some things that they could tweak or focus on that would allow them to maybe extend their range every day?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that you have to preface it by saying, you know, as you just mentioned there too, a lot of it just is just physical. Like if you're not in shape for it, it doesn't matter what little hack or what little trick, you have to be in shape for it. And so on both of my long through hikes, when I started, I was not doing 20-mile days. In fact, I started very slow for the first like couple days on both of them because I didn't want to overexert myself. I intentionally underexerted myself. Totally. And so like a big aspect of it is just building up to that. Like on the AT, I didn't do my first 20-mile day until day 20. And on the PCT, it was probably a little bit sooner, but it still wasn't within the first couple days. Like I was training before both hikes, like you have to be ready for it. But then if you're already doing 15 miles a day, then it's probably not too much of a stretch. And it's different for everybody. So for me, I think the biggest thing is just pacing. Like I will just like try to plan ahead a little bit and pace myself. So like, okay, I know on the PCT, especially, there's like 2 water sources I'm going to hit today. I'm going to try to just hike, you know, without stopping between both water sources. And those will be my breaks. So I'll really only take like 1 or 2 breaks a day. breaks as in like sit down and take off my pack breaks. Every now and then I'll stop to catch my breath or whatever, sit down for a second, especially towards the end of the day. And then, so I like to go pretty hard in the morning and in like, the first half of the day or first
like
2/3
what
of the
is
day.
morning to you? When do you get up?
Not like super early, usually like try to be on trail by like 8 or so. And it varies. Like on the PCT in the desert, it was earlier because it was so hot. So we would usually start by like 6 or 6:30 on maybe 6:37 on those days. But then as the weather got a little bit, or just as we got out of the sun all the time, we would sleep in a little bit more. And on the AT, it was the same thing, like 8 a.m., 8:30 usually. I'm not an early riser, but I would just like try to go pretty hard for like the first half or 2/3 of the day. And then not always, but if I could afford to just kind of like spend the last little bit of the day, like maybe the last like 5 miles, just like going a little bit slower and like cooling off a little bit, I would try to do that too, just to kind of like ease. So you don't come barreling into camp, like just like after this 30-mile day, just like all pumped up still and friggin', which this still happens to me sometimes. I'll rip in there after like a really long day and I'm all just like fired up, but I'm just like, doing laps around the campground or campsite, trying to find like the best spot for my tent. Like that does happen, but it's
like our 5-hour energy is a part of your kit.
No, maybe they should be. Maybe not. Maybe, I don't know, but
so it seems like speed is pretty important. Do you ever hike after dinner?
Sometimes, but not usually.
Okay.
Not on the regular. Only if it's really hot and we need to do night hiking to get the miles in.
So what time do you feel like you typically stop then?
Pretty early, like usually around like 6:30, I'd say, like 6 to 6:30. And I found that on the PCT, especially, there was a lot of people that would still hike the same amount of miles that I would hike. They would just spread it out a lot more. Like they would usually leave before me in the morning, and then I would pass them and I would get to camp like an hour, sometimes even, longer before that they would get there. And, we still do the same amount of miles. They would just take more breaks and hike slower. And I'm very much like, I don't know. I like to get the miles in and then like really relax at camp. And like really just feel like my work for the day is done. I know that's a bad way to look at it for some people, but that's just how I've always looked at it. That's how I look at everything, kind of like when I'm working in normal life too. I'm like, I want to get everything done. And then after that, I can just like relax. But that's kind of the way that I would look at it. But, it's different. It's different for everybody, for sure. Yeah.
So let me ask you a few questions on weight and fueling. So let's start with just pack weight, because if you are doing those kind of miles and you're not necessarily hiking later in the evening or starting too early in the morning, to me that means that you're moving at a pretty good click down the trail. So how much, like, what's your typical pack weight? How much emphasis do you put on pack weight? Because I feel like some of the guys that we were talking to, they definitely had some weight that they could have trimmed off their packs.
Yeah, I mean, you could always say that, right? Like even the most hardcore ultralighter there's probably something, but
we're not talking like the 8-pound base weight guys. We don't talk about those guys.
Okay. Well, good thing, because I'm about 10-pound base weight. However, I have all my camera gear, and so I generally don't include that in my base weight because like most people aren't carrying 3 pounds worth of camera stuff, but I am. And so without the camera stuff, it's around 10 pounds. And, I think that's pretty good. And I still have a stove. I still have like an inflatable sleeping pad. I have a lightweight tent, but still a tent, not just like a tarp. And so I feel like I've been able to strike a pretty good balance between having a pretty light setup and also still being like pretty comfortable too. I don't really feel like I'm sacrificing any comfort in order to get to that base weight. It would be nice to go a little bit lighter sometimes, just because on a long through hike, I eat so much food. I carry so much freaking food. Like, some people hike with like a 40, even less liter backpack. And I've always felt like for shorter trips, I could do that, definitely. But for a long through hike, like the PCT or the AT, like especially the PCT, maybe the AT, I could get away with it, honestly, because the resupplies are shorter. But on the PCT and on the CDT, I'm sure too, like I need a lot of space in my backpack for food. And so that kind of is a bummer. And that adds a lot of weight too, depending on the resupply. But yeah, 10 pounds is around what my base weight usually is, minus the camera stuff.
Yeah. I think that's always what I shoot for, is a 10-pound base weight. And then from there, I feel like I can add in any luxury items, a couple pounds of, if I want to bring a fly fishing rod or something, or whatever it might be for my specific trip. I think that's a great place to be. And I think when you get below 10 pounds, it just, the benefit to what you can save is pretty minimal, right?
Yeah, if you're going below 10 pounds, you really got to be doing like some big miles to make it worth it. I feel like if you're, I mean, and again, I don't know, that's a general statement. It's different for everybody, obviously, but like, for me, certainly, I don't think that I would worry too much about going below that, unless I was trying to do like days so long that I've yet to ever do miles that long. So that would be the only circumstance.
Are you a frame or a frameless kind of guy?
I'm a frameless guy for sure.
Okay.
I ditched the frame a long time ago.
Okay. Talk to me about fueling. So you said you like to eat a lot. What is a lot, and how often are you eating?
A lot of snacks. How often? I'm usually eating like, I'll eat like a breakfast, a couple protein bars. I'll munch on a few throughout the day too. Lunch, I'm sitting down and I'm just rifling through all the different snacks that I have. And then dinner, I'm eating a big dinner. That's probably where a lot of the pack volume and weight comes from. I'll try to eat like well over 1,000 calories for dinner, which is not easy for backpacking food, right? I'll wrap everything up in a tortilla and have multiple tortillas to like boost the calories. I'll eat like a big dessert, so just like a lot of candy and Nutella and whatever after I'm done dinner, just to like really boost those calories. I'm trying to get as much as I can, because I don't want to be like super just like skinny by the end of my thru hike. Like that happens to a lot of people, and like you're going to lose weight. Like there's no way to avoid that. But like, I really tried not to be just like total skin and bones by the end. And I did a pretty good job of that on both thru hikes. I lost a lot of like my upper body muscle, but I wasn't like totally just like skinny. So I feel like I did okay. But man, I'm getting so sick of backpacking food, dude. Like, man, I feel like I'm just always looking for new ideas for food. Like, I can't just eat the same things over and over. And like, man, I'm just so sick of it. Like it kills me to eat like super unhealthy for like multiple days in a row. If it's just one day, then I'm totally fine with that. In fact, I love that. But like, once a week or whatever, have like a cheat day or whatever. But like, man, all day, every day, like it is on thru hikes for me anyways. I know there's ways to eat healthy, but I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time getting enough calories, honestly. And so like, yeah, the food is one of the biggest bummers of thru hiking, honestly.
That was always our question to the thru hikers, is like, what are you guys eating? Because, I feel like we're very luxurious in the sense, like, we're not doing a thru hike, so we can bring a lot better food and more of it. And I mean, and we retail things like Peak Refuel and Honey Stinger products and stuff like that. So it's like we have access to a lot of that. So we're eating like really well, down to like drinking like greens during the day, right? Mm-hmm. But like these guys are just, I mean, they're eating tortillas with peanut butter and gummy worms, It's like,
yeah, it sucks, dude. Like it honestly sucks. I feel like I only have one more long thru hike in me after doing 2 already. And a big reason why is because like it just kills me to go that long eating so terribly. And look, I know there are some people out there who eat healthier on thru hikes, so it is possible. It's just hard. Like you have to be sending a lot more resupply boxes, so you can really like be picky about what you're eating. And that adds a whole nother aspect of it that I hate dealing with. And a lot of other thru hikers hate dealing with. It's also just hard for me to get calories. Like I eat so much, like I said, like even in regular life, like I eat a lot. And so in order to get like all these calories, I can't just be eating like dried fruit like 24/7. And I don't know. Even those backpacker meals and stuff, I started buying more. I didn't buy any of those on the AT in 2018. And by the PCT, I was starting to buy those a lot more, just because like, man, like I was just getting so sick of like the rice and the mac and cheese and stuff. and even those I was starting to get sick of, like the backpacker meals and stuff. Like, man, it's just I hate the food. I hate the food aspect.
It's a good point. Like that might be, by the end of it, the hardest thing I could imagine on trail. Like I enjoy modern day eating, I guess, where you've just got so much variety.
I love vegetables, and like one thing I did do on the PCT, which I didn't do on the AT, was I would pack out vegetables every now and then, especially avocados. Like I would pack out an avocado for like the first day after I leave town, and I would just add it to whatever crap hiker meal I was eating.
Yeah.
And, that helps a little bit. And then I would always say like, oh, when I get to town, I'll eat healthier. But then I was just so hungry. I would just end up eating junk food in town too. But at least it was better junk food. It was like fresh junk food instead of dehydrated junk food. But
right.
I don't know. Yeah. The food stuff.
Do you feel like there was ever any long-term disadvantages from your eating on a thru hike? For instance, I was emailing Frozen a little while ago, and he talked about actually developing some kind of getting anemic because he wasn't eating enough greens on the trail, and it would like really affected his energy levels for a long, long time. I'm curious if you've ever noticed any degradation, physically from the diet out there.
No, I haven't. Thankfully, I've noticed other physical problems like little aches and pains and stuff, but nothing from the diet, thankfully. Man, that's a bummer. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever really heard from anyone who's experienced that, or maybe there's people that have that just don't realize it too.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's crazy though. I'd like to talk to him about that. I haven't talked to him for a while. He's a good guy.
Yeah. What is your favorite meal on trail?
I'm sick of it now, but like my go-to was Annie's mac and cheese.
Okay.
And then I would add hot sauce, olive oil, pepperoni or salami or whatever chicken, whatever meat I had, maybe an avocado, and then I would put it in a tortilla and eat mac and cheese in a tortilla.
Easier than cleaning a spoon, right?
Yeah, and it's just more calories. You just need the calories. So you add like 2 or 3 like tortillas into dinner, and like that's a lot of extra calories you're getting there. So it helps. And I don't know. I guess it does make it a little bit cleaner, although not the way that I wrap my tortillas. I'm not very good at You think after all these tortillas I've eaten on trail and off trail, I eat them a lot too, I think I'd be better at folding them, but it's not the case.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of backcountry foodie?
It sounds familiar. I'm not really super familiar though.
There's a lady that reached out to us, and we've used it a little bit. It sounds like, to me, if I was going on trail, I'd have to look at it. But she's a thru hiker, but she's a registered dietitian as well. And she created this membership platform where she basically creates like healthy. Her saying is that when she went on trail, she was an ultra runner, very skinny, and didn't have the 20 pounds to lose or whatever. So, but what's cool about it is you can go into a town with like a food list. So you go into the store and know exactly what you need to get, and then it will plug in all the meals on trail. So for a guy like you, it might be worth looking into.
Yeah, maybe. The only problem is in a lot of these small towns along the trail, you just can't find everything. Like even some of the junk food I wanted, I couldn't always find. Every now and then you'll get to a bigger town that has like a Walmart or like a full grocery store. But a lot of time these stores are just small. And so it can be quite difficult sometimes. I really wish that grocery stores, maybe I'm just missing them, but I'm pretty sure I wish that grocery stores would sell dehydrated vegetables, just like, because I know they exist. Obviously, you can buy them on like Amazon and stuff and online, but I never see them in grocery stores. Like that would make it so much easier. You could just throw some dehydrated vegetables in all your hiker meals. Like, man, that'd be a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure that would really help with so much of the physical aspects.
Grocery stores aren't exactly catering towards the hikers.
You don't come in with the biggest wallets.
No, like who else would want to buy like dehydrated vegetables when they could just buy like regular vegetables,
fresh vegetables?
Yeah.
So, as far as going forward, sounds like this year you may get back out on the PCT a bit. Any other big adventures coming up?
I am going to be moving back to the Northeast for a good chunk of the summer. And so I've been away that's my home, and I've been away for almost a year now. And so I'm just going to be in the Whites a lot, in the White Mountains, doing like lots of stuff. As far as through hikes, I don't have anything planned yet. It's possible that maybe when I get done the PCT, I might do a long one. But I mean, I did 2,200 miles. Actually, I did more than that because I did another 200-mile trail last year. So I did, over 2,400 miles last year. And so I know there's lots of people out there that are just like habitual, like through hikers, just always doing stuff. But like, I really like to give my body a bit of a rest. So I'll be doing lots of miles this year. It just won't be as much through hiking, but I mean, I'm going to have to do like 400 miles on the PCT. Like I said, if all goes to plan. So that's the big one. And then there's always like lots of shorter trails that I'd like to through hike. Maybe I'll do one of those. Maybe I won't. I'm not exactly sure yet, but the PCT is the main one for this year.
Gotcha. Man, I had another question going along with that. I mean, obviously, getting out here to Utah, you can hike that Uinta Highline Trail. That's a great trail. If the snow ever clears out here,
I don't know too much about it. Isn't it? I'm trying to think.
It's like a shorter John Muir style, I guess I would say.
Is it like fully developed, or is there some route finding on it?
No, it's trail the whole way. Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I was under the impression that part of it was route finding, but that's cool. That is on my list. I've heard that it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the hardest part is definitely the shuttle aspect of it, because one end of it is really remote. I mean, they're both pretty remote trailheads, but one end is quite remote. And there's been shuttles that have like popped up and disappeared over the years. So there may be a shuttle, there may not be, but there's also, I mean, that trail is not going to clear until maybe July this year. It's just, there's going to be so much snow. But
are there any points to resupply, or do you have to do it all in one shot?
It's one shot, 110 miles, one shot.
That's tough for me. Carrying 100 miles worth of food is tough for me.
It kind of, there is a spot that you do cross, like there, again, with some of the shuttle services, they will shuttle in some food to like, you cross a dirt road once or twice, but like within like the same day. But there's probably 60 something miles of it that would have to be in one carry. So that is 60. Yeah, that is part of why it's definitely beneficial to cover some miles and not drag it out, and because of that. But
I mean, I have done 100-mile stretches without resupplying, but like it's not preferred because like I said, I just have to carry so much food, so it hurts. It hurts my back the first couple of days.
Yeah, you may have to switch back to a framed pack for something like that.
I don't know. I made it work. I did on the PCT. I did like 120 with a bear canister too. Ooh. And I managed to do it with my frameless pack, but oh my God, it was my hips and my back my shoulders were destroyed for the first couple days. It was insane. I should have taken some pictures. Honestly, it was nasty.
Yeah. That I haven't had to hike much with the bear can, to be honest. A lot of bear hangs.
I hadn't either.
Very few bear canisters, and they're not fun
suck.
When I have these.
Nobody likes them. The bears don't like them either.
The bears don't. Any like big dream hikes, like international hikes or anything like that, that's just like, this is something I want to make happen in my lifetime?
Honestly, the biggest one is the CDT I'd like to do sometime within the next few years. Definitely not this year, probably not next year, but maybe the year after that, something like that. And then I'm from Vermont, and I've hiked the Long Trail. That feels like my home trail. It's where I like started backpacking. I know that trail like super well. And so I think I'd just like to go back and hike that trail. That's the only trail that I've already done that I'm really just like itching to go back and do, and probably will do a couple more times over the course of my life. I think anytime I'm feeling homesick, I'd like to just go back and see if I can hike that trail and just get reacquainted with my home, because I don't really see myself living there again for a long time. And so it feels weird calling that a dream hike because it's very attainable, but like that's when I think of 270 miles.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love that trail. I love that trail so much. And so that and the CDT are the two ones that I don't really have any plans to do the Long Trail probably anytime soon, but I definitely want to go back and do it, like I said, multiple times over the course of my life.
So you'll polish off the Triple Crown, change your
Hopefully.
YouTube channel to Kyle Hates Triple Crowns, and never do it again.
I will not be doing the Triple Crown again. I don't see myself doing the entirety of any of the AT or the PC or the CDT again. I mean, I haven't done the CDT yet, so I will do it once, hopefully, if I'm so fortunate to be able to finish it. But I don't think, like I said, it's hard on your body, man. I'm only 27, and like I still feel like it just takes a toll. And some people are just like can just do it all the time. Like every year they're doing thousands of miles, but it's hard, man. It takes a toll on your body for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that it does.
And I like doing shorter stuff, and I don't want to just like destroy myself to the point where I feel like I can't do the shorter stuff anymore. Because I've been getting into trail running, and like I like the short through hikes. I say I don't think I'll do another long one after the CDT, but I will do plenty of like 200 to 300 ish mile trails. Like I don't ever want to stop like doing that length. Like I love that's like the sweet spot. I feel like.
I feel like what I'm learning is your channel is all about how to not actually hate hiking. It's about you quitting while you're ahead, and then making it a lifelong pursuit that you can stick with. So that makes way more sense now. I think that brings it at full.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. No one's ever phrased it quite like that before.
Well, if you guys haven't yet, definitely go check out Kyle's YouTube channel. You can check out his podcast, Trail Tales, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then, who are you on TikTok? You go under a different alias?
No, I'm Kyle Hates Hiking on TikTok. Man, dude, TikTok. I hate it, but I love it. It does I spend a lot of time watching TikToks. I hate to say it. Like, it's pretty entertaining. They really figured out the optimal, like, dopamine social media thing. It sucks.
Yeah. I'm like too scared. So I don't have TikTok personally. And
I wouldn't.
But the problem is I love YouTube and I end up on YouTube Shorts. So it's like, am I really?
It's the same thing, basically. Yeah. If you're already hooked on the shorts, then you might as well stay off the talks, as the kids call them. I don't know if any kids ever called it that, but
I'm sure they call it everything.
Probably.
Well, is there any other places that people should follow you or
on OnlyFans? No, just kidding. No.
So you're really making your money, huh?
Yeah. No. I think you covered everything there. I appreciate coming on. This was really fun, and so yeah, thank you, man. Seriously.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll have to talk again.
Sounds good.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that podcast as much as I enjoyed interviewing Kyle. Great guy and a lot of fun talking through a lot of those points. So I did also want to remind you guys really quickly that the Nebo windbreaker is now available. This piece is likely a piece that you have not had in your backpack yet, but is the most versatile piece that you could add to your backpack. The Nebo is really designed around shedding the wind, but also staying highly breathable. It's not going to feel or act like a trash bag like some of the other windbreakers out there. No, it breathes well, but it still sheds a lot of that wind, keeping you warm and comfortable, even in high exertion situations. So if you're covering miles on trail, the saying, be bold, start cold. Yes, you can do that, but you can also add a windbreaker and stay highly comfortable, shedding that wind, retaining heat, and just not overheating in the process. So the Nebo's been a phenomenal piece. There's a lot to talk about with it. The fabric, though, is what makes it truly unique. It's a really, really unique fabric. So go check that out. That is available now on OutdoorVitals.com, and invite you guys to pick one of those up for your kit. I think that you will be more than happy when using it for training and in the field. So if you guys, though, have any questions for us, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to us at the Live Ultralight Podcast at gmail.com. That'll forward on to one of us to answer in a future episode on the podcast. Or if you don't know already, this is on YouTube. So the Live Ultralight Podcast on YouTube, you can go there. You can leave comments to which we can respond directly on that YouTube channel. If you've not yet subscribed, make sure you do subscribe. And if you've not yet left us a review, please do so. Those reviews help us to get more people outdoors in a time where we feel like it's absolutely vital to get outdoors with the way that technology is going, and something we even covered in this conversation here with TikTok and YouTube Shorts. All these kinds of things are some of the biggest reasons why we need to disconnect from time to time, get outdoors, and reconnect with ourselves. So please share this. Please rate this podcast if you would. Write us a review, and that means a lot to us. With that, we will see you guys in a future episode.